All right, it's build time. Visit the documentation of Node.js on nodejs.org. And then in here, you just click on the download Node.js. We are using Node.js LTS. It should be version 20.17. If you want new features and you want to try a less stable version of Node.js, you can try the latest. So we will use the long-term support version. You just click download and then you will start downloading. When Node.js has been installed into your system, you will know that because you can open, for instance, you can open your VS Code. Let me open a new terminal, a new window. So in here, we just open the terminal and then we just type node-v and you should see the version. I'm using the version 22.2 and with Node.js, you also have access to npm-v, which returns the npm version. npm is just package manager. You should already know what npm is because this is not a JavaScript course. So if you do from 10, you know what npm is, but at the end, it's just package manager. You use it to install different libraries and scripts into your applications. This is the first step. So you need Node installed. When you see these two outputs, you can move forward with the video. In the meantime, just pause the video, perform the installation, and then follow along. So let me open a folder in here. Let me go inside the project folders. Let's do the YouTube folder and open new folder like Node Express Crash Course. Okay. So let me select this folder and we start from the basics. So let's do like create server. So in this folder, we just have a server.js file, and in here we write all the logic that I find on the website. So let me just move these windows, one on the left and the other one on the right, so I can switch from one to the other quickly. Right, okay. So let's read the documentation very quickly. From the start page, we see that there is create an HTTP server using Node.js. So just copy this code very quickly to the clipboard, just press this button and you paste this here. So we are using this module syntax. So we import create server from the node HTTP module. This is one of the module that I was talking about earlier in the previous video, one of the many, and you can find the documentation here on the official Node.js website. This is the documentation for the HTTP module that is under API/http.html. So this is what we are using at the moment. And we are importing from this module this function that is called create server. This function create server is actually responsible for creating a web server. So the web server is going to run on our machine outside of the browser. It's a web server, so it serves requests. In the same way, we used to do that using server-side languages like Python or PHP. But this time, thanks to Node.js and the V8 engine of Google Chrome, we can run this outside of the browser straight inside our machine. So we create server this way. Create server is this function that we are importing from the Node module. And this function has access to a callback function, which is this function here. This is an arrow function. And the create server gives us access to two objects, the request object and the response object. If you know a little bit of server-side languages, or if you ever worked with PHP, you know that you can perform HTTP requests And so you have access to the request, and then you can provide a response. This is basically what these two variables are here for. So one is the request. We can intercept the request and add something to it, or just read stuff from it. And then we can return a response using the response variable. These two variables can be called in any way you want, but it's a convention that they are called the request and the response, or rec in short and rest in short for response and request. But you can call anyway, any way you want. So in this function, we have this callback. So this callback is handling our response when the server is there, is handling the creation of the server and the responses that will be provided. So here you see res, and then we have access to this method from the response. So response and request are two objects. Inside them, there are a lot of different methods and properties that you can use. One of the properties, this one, write head. You can basically write inside the headers of the response. And in this case, there is a status code written in the response. So you see that when we highlight this right head, the first thing you see is the status code, which is a number, and then the headers. The headers are specified as an object with key value pairs. So this object here is the header that we are sending together with the status code 200, which means everything is good, everything is okay. Then we need to close the request response cycle, and then we do that using the response and. So this is going to end the response, so provide the response and write this hello word for us. Next, this is going to be written onto the page. So it's a web application that this server is serving a request for. So this second part of the script that we got from the documentation is the actual launch of the server. This way, calling server.listen, we run the server and we make it listen on port 1000. You can change the port to a different one. For instance, if you come from Laravel, you are used to call this port 8000 or even a different number. Right. So we use the port 3000, and then we can specify the host that is receiving this request. So host and ports will be what we write here in the browser when we want to perform a request. Then this method here, the next one, this is a callback that is called when you perform a single request. Every time you perform a request, this is popping up. Sorry, the first time you perform the request to the server. So every time you launch the server, this is appearing onto the console. So in your terminal, not in the browser console, but in your terminal. So let's open up this terminal window and then run this code. So if you scroll down, there is nothing else to see, but you need to launch this script. So how do you launch this script and how do you check if the server has been actually created and if it's working? You write node and then you write the name of the file. So here it says server.mjs. MJS is the extension for the module-based syntax of ES, so from ES modules, and the extension is MJS. Otherwise, if you don't want to use this extension, you need to initialize this project as an npm project, and then inside the packaging, you will type, you will add type module in it. So I will show you that in a second. But in the meantime, let me rename this to MJS because the module syntax that I'm using, the import export syntax, is available only for modules. So let's write node and then server.mjs and see we got an error. All right, okay. So it's throwing an error because it cannot find module called server.mjs because I'm not inside the folder. I should go inside the folder create server. Instead, I was outside. If you type ls, you see what's inside this folder. So cd into the folder, and then let me type this, okay, node server. So let me check. Okay, let me save this file and then run nodejs server. Okay, node server.mjs. You need to save the file after you copy. Then you see that here you got listening on 127.0.0.1 column 3000. So that's the server that is listening for requests that are coming to this address. So let me copy this address here and let's go in the browser and you see hello world now onto the page. And that's it for this video. We created a basic web server using Node.js, and we start our first request using the code that was provided in the documentation. In the next video, we will move forward and play a little bit with this server that we created and have a fun with different things that I will show you later. See you later, guys. And if you like the video, leave a like. If you have any question, just leave a comment. Cheers.